welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you are new here. This is my final Steampunk 2026 video. We're going all out. This is one of the most technically difficult videos I've ever filmed. We're going to be using a pyramid mold, and we're going to be using the Let's Resin deep pour resin. Now I am showing you two bottles here. They are both part A, if you are wondering. It was only after I realized. So this is a 2-to-1 resin. So part B is actually a much smaller bottle, just in case you're panicking at home like, Claire, no, don't mix those two together, please. As I said, the pyramid mold is the large silicone pyramid mold from Amazon with its own mold housing, which is really handy dandy. I will link the mold down below in my description box. Hopefully I can still find it. My plan is we're going to build up the inside of the pyramid outside of the pyramid, and to do that I need to make sure that I don't go too big, otherwise it won't fit in the pyramid. So my first initial thoughts were, I need some of this plastic sheeting. This is just standard polyplastic. It won't stick to the resin, and this is the plastic that comes wrapped around the silicone mold from Molds and Shapes. It's absolutely perfect for it. So I've cut out a triangle that I know will fit inside the pyramid, and for this first section we're going to be using the Let's Resin standard epoxy, part A, part B, measurable 1-to-1 by weight, and I'm not making too much. I literally just need enough to build up my very first layer that is going into the pyramid. Now I don't go into too much detail on little bits in this video. This video is honestly one of the longest videos I've done to date, so there are sections of this video that are sped up, because if I show you this in real time, it was around about an hour and 15 minutes, and I just don't think anyone needs to sit through that. Trust me, editing it was painful enough for me. Like, sitting through it in real time, I just couldn't do it. So I have mixed up that small amount of epoxy resin, and I've currently got that in the Let's Resin bubble removing machine. Now, a couple videos back, you might remember I made a bunch of silicone inlays and I made a bunch of castings, and I said to you guys I used these to actually press in. If you remember, I used them to press in, and I said to you guys I'm just going to put them to one side and use them at a later date. Well, today's the date. We're going to be using all of those random edges, those random pieces of picture frame, and all of that jazz. We made our own silicone inlay using the silicone putty from Let's Resin. If you missed that video, I will put it above here on the screen. But honestly, I need to bring these pieces to life. At the moment, they are simply jet black. I'm just rubbing them all with some Finnabair embellishment wax. Now, I do have gold. I wanted to use the gold rub and buff, but since I used it in my bedroom for my bedroom lights, I can't find it because that is me. I've put it somewhere and I don't know where I've put it. So we're going to go with silver, because at the time I was like, oh man, that gold is gone, hasn't it? It's probably at the bottom of the laundry basket or something very random. Anyway, I'm using some of this embellishment wax just to bring these black polyurethane pieces to life a little bit, so that we can see some depth in there and we can see some texture. Now, I did rub some of the cogs and the keys in silver as well, but honestly, I didn't bother too hard. Now, you can't really see that plastic triangle at this point, but I can, and what I need to do is make sure that the resin stays. It stays within that triangle shape, because if it just goes too big, it won't fit in the pyramid, and I will have to cut some. I'll have to sand down the edges. Now, this is the section that I've sped up, because I just don't think you need to sit through this in real time. This took ages, like placement, working out where I want things. The plan really was here to just keep on keeping on, layering it up, more cogs, more keys, more black polyurethane pieces, more cogs, more keys, more resin, and just keep going until I was happy with everything. Now, the one thing to remember that I'm aiming for here is that none of this resin is going to be visible inside the pyramid, because clear resin cancels out clear resin. So it should theoretically look like everything I'm making is floating in midair inside the pyramid. ambitious goals for someone who most of the time doesn't know what they're doing. But I thought, you know what, let's give it a go. Let's have some fun. But honestly, this video for me has actually given me more spin-off ideas than I anticipated, because there were so many sections of this video and I thought, oh my goodness, how incredible would this look? Imagine a tabletop mold, and you fill the tabletop mold with exactly what I'm doing here, right? All your random bits and bobs, the stuff that you've had laying around, all your extra molds that you just pour all your leftover resin into, right? Grab them all, layer them all down in the base of your tabletop mold, put a clear layer, a good centimetre deep. Then do another layer inside of it, like not fill the whole thing, but then you add your steampunk stickers and a few more cogs and keys. Then do another clear layer. That's when you add all of your stunning detail, your stickers and your wings and your moths and all of your, like, it just gave me so many spin-off ideas. Right, I've made my triangle. I'm happy with my triangle. I've built it up. It's quite a chunky triangle. And now I've poured a little bit of leftover resin into a coaster mold. Molds and shapes, if you are watching, please forgive the state of that mold. I will clean it, I promise. Now, this piece of resin is simply going to act as a background for the next layer. So this is the next day. My triangle is done. Now, in an ideal world, guys, you would make this double-sided, right? So that this goes into the center of the pyramid and then you can see it from all sides. And at this point, I thought, this is way too big for the pyramid now. The resin has obviously, as it would, the resin has just slipped out and gone further out than I wanted it to. So at this point, I peeled the plastic off the back and it came away like a dream. And I'm using my Let's Resin sanding machine, lots of sprays of water, to bring this triangle back down to its original size so that I know it's going to fit inside the pyramid. This was a bit of extra effort, but absolutely worth it. It's just too big at this point. It's way too big for the pyramid. Because this is a couple of days later, if I'd have come upstairs, say, 10 hours after I poured, I probably would have just been able to use a pair of scissors and just cut the edges off. That would have been fine. But it was 2 days later, so the resin is pure solid at this point. Scissors is not going to cut it. Yeah, I gave the whole thing a good wipe, got rid of all of that gunk from sanding, and then I sprayed the whole thing with alcohol, and then I wiped it again. What I didn't want was any of that water, so I used a lot of water to sand the edges, and water and resin do not mix, of course, so loads of alcohol spray after that, and just a really, really good solid wipe. Then I left this to one side to dry out completely for about an hour before I even let it go near the resin. So this was all over the period of days and hours. Next up, this is layer number 2. Now, I have been desperate to use a moth or a butterfly from these stickers for ages, and I thought, oh my gosh, how stunning would it look if this absolute queen of a steampunk goddess was sitting in front of these wings. Now, again, this is the second layer. So the resin circle will disappear. It will just look like the girl is sitting in thin air, right? It will just look like she's floating inside the resin. So immediately, as soon as I did this, I thought, oh, I love it so much. But it's not going to fit. She's not going to fit. The circle fits. I knew that the circle would fit. But those wings simply will not fit. So it was all very much like, yes, let's do this. And the second I did it, I thought, yeah, that's not going to work. That's just not going to work. I already broke one of the antennas, so I pulled the other one off. And yeah, I tried it inside the pyramid and it just wasn't right at all. But I carried on regardless. I stuck the girl down. Now, the best way for me to peel UVDTF stickers, by the way, these are all steampunk UVDTF stickers from Amazon. If you've missed the last few videos, I've used them quite a lot. I honestly think I'm becoming a sticker channel, and that was never my intention, but I love them. Yeah, so I stuck her down. Easiest way to peel them, like I said, is cut around the shape, and then you automatically are able to peel them back from each other. Once they're stuck down, peel back that protective layer, and gorgeous. I mean, I also got inspiration from this because this could be your tray topper. You know, like just her and the wings at the top of your tray. So you've built your tray up from the bottom with all of your cogs and your keys. And yeah, ain't no way. ain't no way she's gonna fit. Because as soon as I butted her up against the triangle, I thought, well, I messed up royally there. So just to show you, this is what I'm talking about. It's just ridiculous. There's no way these wings are gonna work. And it broke my heart to have to break them off, but we move, as the kids say, we carry on. And yeah, really happy at this point. I've got my background of the pyramid. Oh, this was another inspirational idea. I laid that triangle up against the back of the pyramid. How cool does that look? Because imagine making 4 of those. Imagine, guys, oh my gosh, making 4 triangles and just resting them all in each and every edge. That would look insane. I feel like I want to try it, but I've also come to the end of my steampunk series. So if anyone wants to go ahead and try that, please tag me. Now, I skipped a bit here. I don't quite know why, but I decided that she would look very cool with some cogs and keys around the outside. Because I've had to get rid of the wings, I wanted to add a little bit of extra something. So I've given her some depth. She now has cogs and wheels around the outside of her, which again will be floating in midair because we won't see the clear resin. I've cut the bottom of her off so she sits flat. Then I thought I'd add one of these moths. Can you tell? I've just been eager to add one of these stickers. I added this sticker. It took me a while. Sorry about that. But it did take me a while to place it because I thought, well, it's got to fit this time. I can't be breaking off any wings. So I stuck it directly to the triangular back. Yes, that did block off some of the hard work that we've already done. But I needed it in there. I just felt like I needed it in there, whether it worked or not. We'll just find out together. At this point, I have to work out how we're going to stick them all together to be able to lower them down upside down into the pyramid, and UV resin was the only way I could think. So this is the Let's Resin UV resin, and I have to be super quick here. I've got the Let's Resin portable UV light. Honestly, this portable light, if anyone's got it, you guys know how incredible it is. You can move it anywhere, bend it wherever you need to bend it. It works a dream. So at this point, I've just got it sitting on the side and I'm holding these 2 pieces in place to get them to fully stick together. And then I can just grab the portable UV light, move it to the side, move it to the front, move it to the back. And at one point when this is all done, I actually sit this coaster up on top of the light as well, just to make sure that the bottom is fully cured. So again, that portable light, so much easier than using a light that's plugged in. This is what we're looking like. I absolutely love this. Again, my brain is saying this would work in a tray. This would work so much in a tray. So again, so many ideas I got from just doing this one project, because for next year's steampunk series, which I'm bound to do now, I've got all of these new ideas that I've written down on my list to try out. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Anyway, next up, I thought, well, she needs to look like she's sitting in some kind of portal, right? So I decided to make yet another layer. So we've got 3 layers together. In front of the girl is now going to be this, what was the name of that TV show? It was like a big circular outer ring, and you can see right through the ring and you'll be able to see her. But then these cogs and keys will look like they're floating in midair, because I'm sticking them all together with some UV resin. Now, it's just the edge, so I want her to be fully visible. So at this moment, I'm just creating a ring, an outer ring, almost like a halo around her, and curing that up, but adding a bit of additional UV resin to that, because I want to make sure that this does not crack, it doesn't split, it doesn't go anywhere. I want everything to be solid and cured in. Equally, I don't want to put too many cogs in here, because I want her to be clear. I want to see her, basically. This is what we were looking like once that was cured. Now, it was still quite sticky to the touch, so I did flip it over and I cured the underbelly as well. I also put the UV light back onto the Molds and Shapes mold to make sure that all of that sticky UV resin cured out. Now it's time to stick this down. So you see the vision now. We've got an outer ring at the front. and you look through that ring and you see that absolute steampunk goddess, behind whom we see the pyramid of yumminess with all of this. Look at this. Absolutely loving this right now. And it was my hope that all of that epoxy resin and the UV resin outers, everything being used basically to glue it all together, is going to become invisible in the pyramid, and it will look like everything is floating. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is my most technically challenged project that I think I've done to date. And this is where I'm just showing you, I sat that coaster on top of the UV light just to get that bum. The bottom really needs to be fully cured. Now let's move on to the resin. At this point, I'm happy. Everything is set. Like I said at the beginning, this resin is 2:1. So 200 grams part A would be 100 grams part B. 10 grams part A would be 5 grams part B. So pour your A first and then halve it. Or pour your B first and double it. That's how you do it. I knew I didn't have a cup big enough, unfortunately, for the pyramid. So this did take several cups. First cup, I've poured 400A and 400A, 200B, taking it up to the 600ml mark. I then mixed it by hand for a couple of minutes. I scraped the bottom, I scraped all of the sides for a couple of minutes before moving it over and putting it on my Let's Resin mixing machine. I let this mix for a solid 8 to 10 minutes. I was happy just cracking on doing what I was doing. At this point, I had to break this. It wouldn't fit in the pyramid. The outer ring was too big. It was too big because that's how I roll, okay? I had to break it. And then, live on camera, just for you guys, I broke it again, unintentionally. It just snapped, as it would, because UV resin is not elastic and it's not bouncy. It was not meant to be bent like that. But no fear, we're going to use a little bit of UV resin, again, the Let's Resin UV resin, and just glue it back in place, hold it back in place. If anything, I was able to bring it higher up so that not only would it fit now, it would kind of like arc over her head now, as opposed to just in front of her head. So yeah, I was all right with it. I was happy with it, but I did have to create that gap in order for it to all fit. And if anything, it's helped me because the UV resin seeped all the way down the back, almost tying all of the pieces in together. And yeah, just hoping now that this floats in midair and all is well. Now the resin is still being mixed up at this point. I had to make quite a lot of resin. I've put it all through the Let's Resin bubble removing machine because we need this as crystal clear as possible for this pyramid. Now, if you guys were with me a while back, I actually tested the Let's Resin standard resin, the normal coasters, bookmarks, key rings, the normal resin. I tested it in a pyramid and it was a dream, an absolute dream, top to bottom pyramid, clear, completely clear. Worked an absolute dream. So I just wanted to know that the deep pour would act in exactly the same way as that. So you definitely have options when it comes to Let's Resin's resin options. I just think this deep pour would definitely work in a deeper mold. Even though the pyramid mold is deep, it's not a solid deep, if that makes sense. We've got a point. So it gets... yeah, I don't know how to really articulate what I mean. But anyway, let's do it. We are slowly lowering our structure down into this deep pour resin. And I am already thinking, oh God, the sanding I am going to have to do because it's too tall for the pyramid. I am holding it down with some of the UV resin tape just because it was the quickest thing I could grab to hold it down in place. And I was trying to film it to show you how crystal clear she now is and how all of those resin bits have kind of disappeared in the deep pour. And I was so happy because I was like, yay, it's so cool. She's going to be floating in midair. You know, we've achieved it. We've done it. I was so happy at this point. But I was very aware that it was protruding out of the top of the pyramid. And I knew, I'm going to have to sand that down to within an inch of its life. Off camera, I mixed up a load more of the Let's Resin Deep Pour, and I added another 2 cups into here, and I filled it all the way to the top until I was happy, leaving minimal, like 5 mil, 4 mil. Now, the next day, there was a couple of things going on. I could see silky strands. Now, this means that I probably didn't have it mixing for as long as I should have. I also knew I had a lot of sanding to do, but also I took it out of the mould. Don't ask me why. I took it out of the housing and I lost the seal. You can just see around the edge. I lost the seal between the silicone and the resin. Now, this poses a problem. This poses a problem because whatever I back this with could potentially seep down the sides. Now, the last thing I want to do now is sand this whole pyramid. I don't want to have to do that. So at this point, I thought if I use UV resin on the back now, I can seal that edge back up, right? So I've got some of the UV resin on the back. I've rubbed it well and truly right up against all 4 of those edges because I thought I could seal it, get those edges sealed back in, so whatever I seal this with, back this with, it's not going to seep down, hoping it would work. What you're seeing me do now is the cling film technique with plastic, because I thought, well, I've got the UV resin down. Before I cure it, I'll slap some plastic on there. At least we'll get a textured bottom. So whilst the UV resin is spread out thinly all across the surface, I'm trying to pinch this plastic to get it like a cling film technique. But of course, it's curing. It's curing before I can get too much detail on there. But I still thought it would be better than nothing, and it would give some visual interest and grunginess to the bottom of the pyramid. Peeling that plastic back, all I have to do now is dust this with a powder and get a colour on there. Now, the colours I'm going with are, of course, the Let's Resin Intense. These are everything they say on the tub. They are intense. They are simply stunning. But it was at this point I thought this was absolutely not worth it. The UV resin was peeling off as it would, right? As it would. You know, Wendy from Toonpish Crafts taught us a long time ago that UV resin does not stick to epoxy resin very well. You'd really have to hack it off if you were using it as a top coat for a keyring. You'd have to hack it off. But in this situation, look at this. It is literally peeling off under my hands. With every brush stroke, I can feel it lifting. I can feel it peeling. It's a lot, you know, and I just thought at this point, I felt like I needed to do it to seal those edges because I'd lost the seal. But I don't know. I just don't know if it would have been worth it at all, to be honest. Equally, we've still got some texture. We've still got the colour. We've still got some of that cling film technique coming through. So I was just rolling with it at this point. Also, I feel like I'd been doing this for days. So I do get to a point where I'm over it. Does anyone else feel like that? I do get to a point where I'm like, okay, we're done. That's enough. Now, to finish this completely, I am going back and I'm using the Let's Resin polyurethane in the white. I do have a tunnel going underneath that big chunk at the bottom, so that's why you saw me tilt the mould to get the resin to go in and under that tunnel fully. Yeah, we're backing it in the polyurethane. This took all of 10 minutes to cure, but it wasn't until the next day that I actually came upstairs and I demolded because I just felt like, leaving it. Oh, guys, listen. Sometimes I just might as well quit at this point. I had my fingers crossed that it would be crystal clear, which it pretty much was, but we had issues. The polyurethane did, in fact, seep down the busted seal. To say my heart was a little bit damaged is an understatement. Like, again, first world problem. Let's talk about the positive things. She's a beauty. If anything, it looks like she's sitting in snow. And quite frankly, guys, I wish I left it. I wish I left it there. I wish I left it alone. But I can't wrap my head around this. This is human error. This is me not mixing the resin long enough. You can really see the streaks. Has it cured? Yes, absolutely. It's cured like a dream. Is it crystal clear and free of bubbles? Yes. Not a single bubble. But the fact that the human error side of this is that it was not mixed thoroughly. Now, that's a rookie error. So we've got streakiness at the back. Now, the best part about this is it's all at the back, not the front. Thank you, universe. Thank you, universe, for coming through. There is a massive blowout of the back of the pyramid. A huge hole. Huge. Now, this is where my triangle was leaning up against the silicone and the resin simply could not get behind it. Couldn't do it. At this point, I knew I had a huge cleanup on my hands. I was absolutely in love with this. The front of the pyramid, the most important part of the pyramid, was crystal clear. There was no streaks in front of my gorgeous goddess's face. Like, it was stunning. And I knew that I had to do everything I could to bring this pyramid back to beautiful. Now, I started off, of course, sanding. Now, this polyurethane is more plasticky than epoxy. It doesn't really want to sand very well and it's really not happy with me. Now, I could see it flying off in chunks and I thought, wait a minute, can I just peel this off? I feel like I can just peel this off. Lo and behold, I could. So, thank you again, universe. Did I have to still sand it? Oh, yes. But it just flew off. It did not stick to the epoxy resin. Does that mean that my base could also crack away? Yes. But do you know what? I'm not selling this. So just, I think if you wanted to make things like this to sell, go and watch a channel that does things right. Because at this point, I'm like, why does anyone watch me? Seriously? Why does anyone watch me? This is my crisis mode. Like, if you're doing this to sell, I fully recommend using epoxy resin for the pyramid, epoxy resin for your backing, and epoxy resin all the way through, just to make sure that it's cohesive. You know that resin's not going anywhere. Me skipping steps using UV resin, then polyurethane, it's not worth it long term if you're selling. Do things properly, use epoxy. Now, I sanded this pyramid over and over and over. I used a brutal grit, a brutal 80 grit to get the majority of that surface off. Then I finished it off with a 3000 grit. So it looks pretty gnarly and pretty chopped up. And I'm going to have to do a lot of work to get this to come back. So first step for me was getting that masking tape on the bottom. Now, to bring this back to life with the top coat, I'm using the normal standard Let's Resin epoxy resin. Gloved hands. Mixed thoroughly for 5 minutes. Don't want to make that mistake again. Mixed thoroughly. And I am rubbing this all over the pyramid. Now, at this point, my biggest fear was that it's just going to pour straight off the pyramid. I've sanded this pyramid, so it should stick. But will it stick? Or will it just pour off the sides and I'll get a load of fish eyes, a load of pooling, and quite frankly, I will ruin the whole thing. So I took my time. I used glove hands, rubbed it in, because obviously I've got scratches in the surface. You want to make sure those scratches are not visible anymore. So really and truly, rubbing this resin into all 4 surfaces, making sure that it is fully coated. And if the resin does drip off, it's going to leave some resin behind. Thus, it will be coated just as I needed it to be. Now, I did use my torch on this. You can see a ton of bubbles here, but once you use your torch, those bubbles all disappear and we get a crystal glass-like finish. She's coming back to life. She is looking gorgeous. And I, at this point, felt nothing but happiness and confidence. And yes, the bottom's ugly. Just don't look down. All right. Don't look down. I love it. I think it's the hardest thing I've ever made. I think it's the best thing I've ever made, bar the human error of not mixing the resin. Let's roll forward 24 hours later. Disaster. Complete disaster. But guys, listen to me. Okay, let's talk about it. Not the best way to top coat a pyramid. Now, my patrons have already said, or I think it was Lauren who said, Claire, sit it in a big bucket of rice. Coat one side at a time. Now, the reason I didn't do that in time for today's video is because I didn't have 4 days to do it. But Lauren's advice of getting a big bucket of rice, sitting this in a bucket of rice so that each and every side of that pyramid is perfectly flat and level, and individually top coat each and every side of the pyramid. Now, that is something I'm going to have to do in the future in order to save this. It is streaky. It gave me all of the fish eyes, all of the everything that I was worried about. And the best part about it, though, is that the front is okay. The front is the least of my worries. It's all the other sides. But here's the thing. You might call me crazy for thinking this, but it genuinely looks like she's being rained on. It looks to me like she's in some... Well, she is, isn't she? She's in a clear glass pyramid and it's pouring down with rain outside. Because look at this. It's not great. It's not what I wanted. It's not how I wanted it to turn out. I wanted a nice, gorgeous, smooth top coat. I didn't get that. But now it looks like she's in a glass cube. Only it's not a cube, is it? It's a pyramid. And it's pouring down outside. I mean, all I could do was think of the positive, right? And now I love her. Now it looks like she's all sad. She's gloomy. She's in her time capsule. She's in her steampunk portal, looking out on the world, surrounded by windows, and it's pouring down. Yes! Am I saying this to get out of having to sand down each and every side and put her in a bucket of rice? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't know me by now, I don't know if you ever will. I'm Claire. I like lazy. But honestly, this was a lot. Like, I put a lot into this and I'm genuinely gutted on the outcome. But now that I think it's raining and she's just chilling in her sphere, it's not a sphere, I meant in her realm, in her pyramid realm, looking out. She doesn't want to leave the house today because it's pouring down with rain. And she's upset about it. She looks quite moody about it. That's all good. I quite like it now. I really actually quite like it now. Oh my gosh, guys. I hope something in this video has inspired you, because this was a long one. Longest video on my channel for years, I think. Yeah, I appreciate you all so much for being here. I'm not going to waffle on at the end like I often do. I will see you all in the next video. Change of theme is coming. And yeah, I'll see you all then. Bye.